Welcome back to the channel. It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books that came out this week. And here with me, as always, is Drew from Comics Lead. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. Glad to be here. This was honestly one of the better weeks we've had this year in comics. I had a blast reading new comics this week. So let's talk about these great comics this week.
And if you're a fantasy fan, this is the best week. I can't remember talking about more fantasy comic books than we are going to talk about today.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. Yeah, some curveballs this week. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to like, and they really surprised me.
First one we're going to hit is Conan the Barbarian, #1 from Titan Comics. Jim Zub, Roberto De La Torre on this one. We knew that Marvel had lost the license to Conan the Barbarian. Titan picked it up. It was a very valuable license. And it appears that they made a very good choice. Not the biggest Jim Zub fan in the world. I always felt like he was kind of treading water, never getting what amounted to a big break. I think this is the big break, and he absolutely delivers in every way conceivable. When it comes to this comic book, it feels like Conan. It feels like a Barbarian comic. It's absolutely awesome fantasy action. The art from Roberto De La Torre is fantastic. It feels old school Conan. All the visuals felt right in place for the Conan character, and we've got interesting things happening. Conan is breaking off from his mercenary group because he doesn't like the way the leadership went. He might have to fight his way out of that one. And it kind of drives him into this other thing that's happening at that very moment. There's an undead army coming to the land that Conan is inhabiting, and that kind of sets up our adventure. And while this isn't a adaptation of a Robert E. Howard existing Conan story, it feels like Jim Zub gets the character and what to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think this is a good jumping on point for a character like Conan for a lot of new people. Because, I mean, Conan, he's a property he's been around for almost 100 years now, probably right around there. And some people may be a little bothered by how much material is out there from Conan, not knowing where to start. They don't know where there's a good jumping on point. I really think Jim Zub did a good job of telling a good jumping on point for Conan for new readers, and it's a very good, solid start. Conan against an undead horde. Sold. Take my money now. I love it. That's the premise, and the art in this, like you said, it is beautiful. This is a true love letter to the Bronze Age of Conan. And the art is flipping beautiful. I love looking at every page. I love re-looking at every page. Conan looks like a badass in this. The fight scenes are awesome. We got naked women. We get undead horde. It's great. This is Conan. Beheadings, yeah. Dismemberings. I love it. It's great. This is what you want in a Conan comic, and a great jumping on point for anyone out there like you if you're not familiar with Conan.
Yeah, very interesting. Titan Comics is a European publisher, and they've had some cool stuff. Like some of their Blade Runner stuff is absolutely badass, but it feels like this Conan book, it might be the beginning of the best thing that they've ever done. Now let's go on to some more fantasy action. Didn't see this one coming. The Sacrificers, #1 from Image Comics. Rick Remender recapturing the magic that he once had. Max Fumera on this one. This is a very interesting comic book. It's much more bigger in scale and scope, and the ideas that are being fleshed out by Rick Remender in this comic book. We have a group of anthropomorphic birds, I guess. Yeah. Where they are the sacrificers. They are the believers. We have a devout family. They're praying. And it turns out they are going to sacrifice their older brother, or I guess the oldest son, the older brother, the kids there, and their firm belief and faith in everything that they believe in and what they're going through and the struggles of that family. But we also get the flip side. We see the God that they're sacrificing to and his not so godly problems that he's dealing with, because he's actually got a civil war or something going on in his own house, because he's got a wife, he's got a daughter, he's got all these women in his life that are causing him torment while he's sitting up there in the heavens or whatever. And it's a very interesting juxtaposition. I could see this going a little bit off the rails, to be completely honest, but for now, Rick Remender got it honed in, got it right, and the art was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Rick Remender is one writer recently where he can either be like a Jim Zub. It can be really hit or miss. And like the scumbag from Rick Remender, I didn't care for. This was really, really damn good. I really enjoyed this. Like you said, this really surprised me. I do love the juxtaposition between the believers, the commoners, the common birds, and the wealthy gods. You know, and I love seeing the juxtaposition between the child. Or the youngin being sacrificed to the young godlike daughter. You know, you see her, she's just you don't want to deal with her. She's just a royal pain in the ass. And I love that this different class warfare you got going on right here, which is really cool and really good. And I do like how Rick isn't holding your hand while telling the story. He wants you to kind of figure it out along the way. And you kind of get that same vibe when he puts in a letter at the end of the comic saying he loves David Lynch, because David Lynch does not hold your hand when he's telling a story. He wants you to kind of figure it out. And I really, truly appreciate that. And I think this could be the beginning of something special here from Rick Remender. And really do check this out, guys. This is a very special comic.
Yeah, I did not see that one coming, but it absolutely delivered. I'm glad to see Rick Remender back, because when he's on his A game, there are only a handful of people that can even compete with him, let alone actually beat him. The next one we're going to talk about, maybe not so much fantasy related, more horror. Spawn 344 from Image Comics, Rory McConville, Carlo Barbary on this one. And we've got, I guess they're kind of changing the focus of the story here and putting all the pieces on. Now that we've gotten a lot of the answers on what was happening, we're setting up this enormous conflict, and it opens up when we see Gunslinger Spawn there. And Spawn is on Earth, and he's starting to go out there and recruit members to his team that are going to go down to hell and fight a big war and all this stuff. It turns out most of his allies at this point don't really like him anymore. It's going to take some effort to get him on his side. And then we also see what's going on in hell, as we've got this big civil war going on there, and the agents of heaven are in there, and Spawn and his team are dead set on letting sin ever reach the throne of hell, and that's kind of the big goal for that character in what could be the apocalypse for everybody. So we got everybody kind of playing their own cards and looking out for themselves as they're building up to what looks like this enormous cataclysmic war that's going to destroy everything.
Yeah, so it centers around the different realms, or the fifth and sixth realm, I believe, in hell in this issue. But yeah, the big point in this is Spawn trying to get help to go down to hell. Like he's going to this character Haunt and Gunslinger, trying to get their help. And like you said, brought up earlier, he's gotten help from them in the past, and things didn't turn out too well when they helped him in the past. So now he's going back to them asking for help again. But a couple of them, like the Gunslinger, he's made an offer on a certain character. Hey, he's going to be down there. And he's like, all right, fine, deal, as long as I get the kill. But yeah, I really love what he's setting up here. This has something. It's good and it's frustrating at the same time, because it feels like Todd's been setting something up for like the last 2 years. It's like let's get to this big setup. Let's get to this big cataclysmic event. I really hope we get that sooner rather than later. It really feels like, I don't want to say treading water, but it's like, let's get on with it. Let's get to it. And I really hope we get to that soon.
It did feel like Spawn was treading water for quite some time, but I'm getting kind of excited because now it feels like he's finally got the chessboard ready and he's ready to start and do this big conflict. I hope that's what's happening. The last indie comic book we're going to recommend, going back to the fantasy realm, Fire and Ice #1 from Dynamite Comics. Bill Willingham, Leonardo Manca on this one. I personally have not read this comic book yet. I do like Bill Willingham a lot. I love fantasy comic books, but I didn't even realize this one was coming out. It wasn't marketed very well, but I've heard from so many people that it's must read that I'm definitely going to get out there and get it this week.
Yeah, this is a must read comic. And there was a minor bit of controversy, if you will, a little controversy, a little bit, just because this is a prior property. It was an animated feature from Ralph Bakshi in the early 80s, Fire and Ice. And it's being adapted now by Bill Willingham, but the original writers of it weren't too happy because they didn't get acknowledged for their work on that in this new venture. But yeah, this comic is really, really good. I really enjoy what they're setting up here. It's much like Sacrificers. You got your different classes, different societies, different groups, and power plays. But the one big feature, the one big guy, I believe his name is I think it's Dark Claw, the main guy who's like on a lot of the covers. Dark Wolf, I'm sorry. He shows up in a couple panels, but I'm really hoping we get to see more of him in the second issue. But Bill Willingham, his storytelling is second to none. His dialogue is terrific. The characters are very, very believable characters in this. They have their own motivations. There's some good Game of Thrones stuff going on here with parents and kids and sacrifices. This is a terrific first issue, guys. You're not going to be lost reading this at all. You're going to enjoy this. If you love Conan and if you love Sacrificers, this kind of has the best of both worlds in this book. I'll say that.
Yeah, if you're an enormous fantasy comic book fan, fantasy storytelling fan, this is the week for you. You got the debut of Conan, the Sacrificers, and Fire and Ice, which I still have to check out because I am a fantasy dork myself. Let's get into the big two, and we're only going to talk about Marvel. We got nothing to recommend from DC. Definitely going to recommend Magneto #1, J.M. DeMatteis, Todd Knock on this one. This is one of those throwback series going into continuity 30 years ago at the beginning kind of the New Mutants and stuff like that. This one feels a little bit different because I don't believe what they're setting up here could have ever actually happened. It just almost feels more like a what-if story than actually something that's going to fit into the continuity that's already existed, which makes it feel a little bit different. Professor Xavier has to leave the Earth because he's got issues. They're going to have to be fixed like off-world. And there's a new teacher at the Xavier Academy for Gifted Youngsters, and his name is Professor Lencher. Magneto is the teacher, and it's a very introspective comic book, but it's setting up things that I don't think could have ever actually happened in X-Men continuity. But if you like Magneto and you like a character study, this really is the comic book for you, even if, it's almost leaning on fanfic. But the Todd Knock art really throws it over the top, and it's a very interesting look at the character and the things that he did, and how he kind of justifies it. Yeah,
like you said, I hate saying the word fanfic, but it really does kind of feel like that, because when you go back and reread those issues of Uncanny X-Men and New Mutants and incorporating the new characters, it's like, I don't see how this could have worked. But that's what happens when you don't get Chris Claremont to write it, because I guess Chris probably could have found a way to really make it all fit. But I do love Todd Knock's work in this. My one knock on Todd Knock is Magneto looks too much like Quicksilver in this. There's a couple panels in here because Quicksilver is in the very beginning of this, and we see Magneto out of his costume later on. It's like, wait a minute, is that Quicksilver again? Oh, I was like, oh no, that's Magneto.
They kind of look alike.
Yeah, well, they look a lot alike in this book. Like there's a couple panels where they look, one that's not older than the other. They look, because they both have the same exact hair and everything, same body shape. But
did you like the homages to the old school art with the Technicolor and all that stuff happening? And a little bit of Kirby Crackle and stuff. Yeah,
I love the Kirby Crackle. You got to put that in there. It's fun, and there's a lot of pathos in here with Magneto reflecting on his life, his past decisions, talking about the Cape Canaveral incident. It's nothing really new here. We all know this stuff about Magneto. But I suppose if you're new to Magneto and you're new to the X-Men, you're not familiar with Magneto and all of his past troubles, this would be a good jumping on point. But yeah, the art is really good. It's a good story, and I'm very interested to see where it goes with this brand new character they've introduced.
Like I said, it's an interesting character study. I don't know if it fits the bill as one of those throwback miniseries that they've been doing, because those all kind of fit in, whether it be great or nice or neat, but you can kind of move them in there. This one, you can't really do that. So it's a little bit of an outlier, but still very entertaining. The art is fantastic. The final comic book that we will recommend, Moon Knight 26, Jed MacKay, Federico Sabatini. I've been kind of a fan of Hunter's Moon since they introduced a character, obviously, into this series a couple of years ago, and I've always wanted more of him. And we got more of him on this one. My goodness, it's another character study, but this time of Hunter's Moon and how he's going to see the shrink to examine himself and all the things that are going on with his life, and how he's been impacted by the old fists of Khonshu, and there's something happening that's kind of changing him. Is he about to be the new villain for Moon Knight? But he can't stop himself. But if you like the concept of Hunter's Moon and what he is as a fist of Khonshu, juxtaposed to the real Moon Knight as they kind of flesh this out and move it forward, I thought it was pretty interesting. Federico Sabatini isn't the full-time artist on this one, but he's the best villain artist that they've got, and it still looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks really good, and according to the solicitations and stuff they've advertised, they are bringing about the death of Moon Knight. So, I mean, if you read this and you look at that solicitation that they're hinting at, you could probably be killing off Mark Spector and then bringing in Hunter's Moon as his replacement. Because, I mean, you could see this issue. Like I said, this is more of a character study, this issue. He's at the psychiatrist, and we're seeing him, what his motivations are, his pains and everything. And this could be setting him up to be the replacement Moon Knight for who knows how long. But yeah, it's a good issue. It's a good action-packed issue. And yeah, bringing up how Khonshu he's not reincarnating people anymore. You can't do it anymore from the moon. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff being brought up here and being set up. 2 for 2 this week from Jed MacKay. Got to give him that.
We've got nothing to say about DC Comics. You didn't want to recommend any Night Terrors?
If you want a Night Terror, you can read Night Terrors. I would suggest that.
Night Terrors hasn't been the big winner I think DC Comics was expecting. Me personally, I checked out. I'm not sure if you're still checking them out, but there's nothing to talk about.
One good side story is in the back of Action Comics, is with Miko Soyan on the art, and Philip Kennedy Johnson wrote it with Cyborg Superman. It was only one's halfway decent.
That will do it. Now, you're not going to be with us next week to talk about the best comic books of the week because you're going to take the show on the road. What are you ditching us for?
I got to go to Chicago. I go to Sweet Home Chicago, baby. Yeah, North Side. Chicago Fan Expo. I'll be there with Comics Elite. I'll be there with our cosplayer Rachi Lin, Marat Michaels, Jay Lee, Ariel Diaz. We got some fun stuff in store. Some fun, awesome shows in store for Chicago. You guys do not want to miss this. And Kyle Not Kevin's going to be there. There'll be a Kyle Not Kevin sighting at a convention. Very rare opportunity to see Kyle. So yeah, if you're in the Chicago area, what's that?
Is he bringing the baby?
Not bringing the baby, just him.
Oh, no one wants to see him if he doesn't have the baby.
I'll try to talk him into bringing the baby. But yeah, we'll be there next weekend, guys. Please come check out Chicago Fan Expo and come by and say hi.
If you are at the end of the road and you want some more thinking critical, you want some more comic book talk, YouTube has looked at what videos you like to watch and the videos I've created, which is almost 3,000 at this point, and they've decided this video in particular right here is the greatest video I ever created in the history of my channel of my life, specifically for you. Definitely check it out right now.